session. So we'll just start with the session. I presume that most of you are with the background of Selenium and a few of you aren't into Selenium yet and you have joined with a scope that you can understand to the latest trending technologies. And everyone can unmute yourself. So let me just start about myself. So about myself, I'm Natarajan with 8 years of experience into corporate training. I do trainings into various products which include Selenium with Ruby, Python, Java, C Sharp, and JavaScript. And I have my colleague and partner, Mr. Balaji, in this session, who would also be doing all these trainings. We are expertise into different parts individually. So we are planning to start off with this clear code camp where we experience about various products in different industries, and we want to expose our experience to all the candidates over here and to just expand the community. And for just branding of clear code, we are doing it. So we are planning to go ahead with camps like this where we do BDD and starting with BDD Cucumber that is trending today. We'll be starting with that, and upcoming weeks we are just planning to take up migrations into C Sharp Selenium. So how does Java Selenium connect with C Sharp Selenium, and how can you take it forward? So we'll be working on all these concepts, and that is the plan of this meeting. And today is the start of this particular session. So we'll be starting with the scratch, right from the scratch of Selenium, how to directly get into Cucumber for people who are new to Selenium as well, and for people who are new to Java as well. So we are today going to focus purely on Cucumber and not on Selenium Java. So people who know Selenium Java will understand 100% of this session, and people who are new to Selenium and Java would understand about 70% of the session, where about 70% of the session is going to be around Cucumber and BDD, right, in Gherkins. So Cucumber, when you consider it itself on its own, is going to be a separate programming language, which is termed as a Gherkins coding language. So you'll have to use that Gherkins code and you'll have to write your Cucumber feature files. So from that, we would be starting right from the scratch of installation of Eclipse or the IDE where you can write this Gherkins code along with Java executions. And when you consider other languages, you have their own native IDEs again. So we are going to work with Eclipse as a core standard. So let me just set forth a platform for this session. What are we going to have as an installation part, and what are we going to do stage by stage? So basically, we are going to start with the installation as you see on the slide. We would be starting with the installation part. We would be starting with installation of Java, Eclipse, all put together into a single sequence so that even a novice can get directly into Cucumber and start working with it. Followed by, we would be working on installation of plugins to your Eclipse, where we add them to Eclipse in order to do feature file coding. Followed by, we will start writing the Cucumber Gherkins code, BDD code, and we'll move forward into integrating them to your Selenium code. So integrating them to the Selenium code and doing Java coding, all that are going to be the later 30% of the session, which would be about 45 minutes to 1 hour duration. Whereas the first 2 hours is purely going to be on different types of feature files, what you can write, so that people from different backgrounds can make use of it. That is people from QA background or people from business background, because Cucumber code is under the scope of a business background, but which has not yet been adapted by the industry yet. So Cucumber feature file would be written by business people, and that would be forwarded to the QA team where we write just the Selenium code in order to integrate it. So integration would be the part of our QA team, whereas Cucumber code would be written by business team and given to us. So that is not actually being followed in the industry today. We would be starting shortly with that. Let me just open up the slides. I just had a technical difficulty in my other mission, so sorry for just connecting a bit late. I was late by about 4 minutes. I'm extremely sorry about that. So we'll make sure that everything is right from the next meeting. Being the initial session, obviously, I just apologize for all these. Okay, so we would be starting with the project structures and Eclipse installation. Let me just share forth my screen and show you the installation part of Eclipse and everything. So basically, to install your Eclipse and to go ahead with, you can just directly start executing and getting onto your Google. Well, that is where you have everything available. So what are we going to install now, and what are we going to do for today is, first thing, I'll just make use of this WordPad as a notes environment, and I would be sharing you this notes, slides, and the recorded session all put together. You can kindly drop your mail IDs to Balaji. You'll find Balaji over there in the contact list. You can kindly drop your mail IDs to Balaji, or you can just drop it personally to him so that it won't be shared with everyone. And we would be sharing you across the recorded session accordingly. It's not that you need to share immediately once you find the session useful and once you want this recording, maybe you can do that at the end of the session as well. So we aren't doing anything regarding the marketing, or we aren't doing anything regarding collecting data and working with spammers and all that. So you can just put forth your mail IDs at the end of the session after the 2 hours or 3 hours, once you find that this is going to be useful and once you find that you would be taking it forward. So before I move forward, I could get some messages that they could not hear me. Can I confirm from some people who could hear me clear?
Yes, you are completely audible.
Okay, yep. Thank you. Thank you for the confirmation. So Balaji, please take care of people who are not able to connect. Please connect with them in private windows and please help them out. I'll just take for the
Sure.
session from here. Okay. So we are going to start with the installation part, where in the installation, we would be working with Java. So Java as an individual product, when you consider, we need Java to go ahead with writing the Java codes, and we need JDK for that. So we would be installing JDK. Why do we need JDK? Why not JRE? Or what is the use of JDK? What is the use of JRE? All that we'll be discussing in the upcoming sessions, maybe in next week or next to next week. We are planning to split up the entire Selenium knowledge that we have into pieces and do it every week. So all that we would be seeing forth in the upcoming weeks. Today, I just planned a session for a couple of my friends, which I abruptly thought that I can share with everyone else. So this is going to be an open session, and we are going to just install JDK because this is a new mission for me. I would just go ahead with JDK installation as well. You can have a view of it if you are starting new into this Cucumber and Java. And then we would be install Eclipse IDE. And why Eclipse IDE? Why not other IDEs such as IntelliJ, or why don't we use Notepad to do coding? What all are the different environments where we can do coding? All that we would be discussing in the later sessions again, while we are discussing more in detail about Java, Selenium, Cucumber. And then you have these two as basic installation. And under Eclipse, we can install a plugin termed as Cucumber plugin, or otherwise termed as a natural plugin, where you can write the BDD Cucumber codes. So this is going to be the installation part. Then taking it forward, before installation, we would be discussing about what is all about Cucumber and what is all about Selenium, a detailed description of all of that. Then we'll start off immediately with the installation. After the Eclipse is installed, we would do a hands-on session. Maybe you can also do all these parallelly. So that's how I'm going to do the session. This isn't going to be a demo session. This is completely going to be a free session where you learn everything. So it is not that we give a piece and for the remaining piece you need to pay and join us. It's not going to be that way. So it's a pure platform which we have set forth to expose the knowledge what we have. So you can, I'll just take up some demo sessions about Cucumber. I'll just take up some introductions to Cucumber. Sorry about that word demo. So I'll just take up about the introduction to Cucumber and I'll explain you in detail. Since this installation is going to take a while, since this installation is going to download a bigger files and do some additional installation activities internally, we would just start off with these two installations, get back, and we'll start working with the Cucumber details and Cucumber basics. So initially, to start off with JDK installation, because this is a new mission, and as I told you, I had technical difficulties on my natural mission. I've just connected onto my home PC, which doesn't have anything in it. So this would be a complete learner session for you again, where I can make sure that obviously you will learn everything, because I'll have to install everything if I have to show to you. So this is going to be a complete learner session again. So I'll just get on to google.com and just browse for JDK download, and I'll be navigated onto the Oracle site from where I can actually download and install the JDK. So just a minute, let me just get the environment initiated. So since I'm opening it for the first time, it's just a slight lag between. Yeah. So I'll get on to google.com and I'll just simply put JDK download. Basically, when you consider JDK, JDK is like an environment where you develop Java codes, you write Java codes, you develop them, you compile them, and you execute it. So we are using Cucumber based on Java, but Cucumber is actually into 5 different languages. So it's into Java, Ruby, Python, C Sharp, and JavaScript. Into every individual language, you have a special framework for all of them. Into Java, you have something termed as JBehave, and into Python, you have something termed as Robot Framework. Into Ruby, you have something termed as Web Automation Testing in Ruby, Water, WATIR. And into C Sharp, you have something termed as SpecFlow. And into JavaScript, you have something termed as Jasmine, Protractor, all these. So these are all different frameworks in their native languages that are being used by the industry today. So let me just install JDK. So I'll just put in JDK download. So once I search for JDK, I would be navigated onto the Oracle site as a first search option. So I can get into that Oracle site. And from the Oracle site, I can just go for JDK 8, version 8. So when you consider Java, you have various versions in Java. The latest version that is trending in the industry is 10, but not at much into usage. Even the developers are using 8 because 10 is not at stable. About a couple of weeks back or about a month back, if you have got onto this particular page, you would have seen Java 9 available, but you can see that 9 is no more available because that wasn't stable and that wasn't much supported. So it's always better to go for a version lesser or which has been a very long-term support version. So 8 has been a long-term support version. You can just click on this download under JDK for Java. And you can just click on this accept license agreement, the radio button. And you can just choose the corresponding operating system. It can be either Mac or Windows. For all operating systems, this is going to be the same process. You can just choose the corresponding operating system. I'll choose Windows 64. And that would get downloaded to your machine once you have decided to go with that particular operating system. You can see that it gets downloaded to your machine, and from there you can just straight away install JDK. So it is getting downloaded now. So it's about 200 MB of capacity. Provided you have good network, it would get downloaded in about 3 to 4 minutes. And you can just directly start installing it straight away. Installation, again, if you have a good fast machine of about 4 GB RAM, there isn't any system specification with respect to Selenium, Cucumber, and Java because, as you know, Java is a basic programming language, not much intensive or not much complex. So it doesn't require much installations to be done. It doesn't depend on lots of files. So you'd not require a very big memory space. Maybe if you are patient enough to work with, a 2 GB of RAM should be more than sufficient to go ahead with. Only thing is, while installing or while you're doing multitasking or while you're doing multiple processes at the same time, you might have disturbances if you have a lower RAM. So once the JDK is downloaded, you can just straight away install it. But before installing, you can make sure if JDK is already available because of some other programmings which you have installed earlier. Because most of the communities where I've shared this link is from Tosca or from QTPUFT or from RPA, which other tools might depend on JDK and it would ask you to download and install JDK internally. You would have not known that JDK is installed. But while you're installing your other tools, you might have got this installed from the platforms which I have shared this link. So you can make sure if JDK is available in your machine just by getting onto this PC, C drive, and under C drive, you can just get onto program files. If it is a 64-bit, it would be under program files. If it is a 32-bit of Java, it would be under x86. So you can get onto program files and you will have something termed as Java over there, which when you get in, you can see the version of JDK available there, which means JDK is installed in that machine. So probably you'll have JDK and JRE together. I just have JDK alone. Maybe I would have uninstalled sometime in between, I believe. I'm not very sure when I accessed this machine last, maybe about 4 or 5 months back. And this is generally used by my family members at home. So once you have downloaded Java, you can just go with all defaults. Let me just install this JDK as well to show you how it goes with. You can just go with all defaults probably in order to go with your JDK installation. You can just say next, 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 and you can install all default settings. And while your JDK is getting installed, maybe mine is a bit slow, so I would just start with the next step while the JDK is getting installed. You can just go with all defaults and you can say next, 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 and you can install everything. While the JDK is being installed, you can just get on to download your Eclipse parallelly. So you can just get on here, get onto the tab, and you can just get onto eclipse.org. That is the official site of your Eclipse. You can say eclipse.org. That is the official site of Eclipse from where you can download and install your Eclipse IDEs. So onto the site, you can just click on this download. If it is a Windows machine, you can just go ahead with this download 64-bit. If it is a Mac machine, you can just click on this download packages. Or if it is a Linux machine, you can click on this download packages. And from there, you can choose the operating system what you want, and you can connect from there. So you can choose different operating systems like Windows, Mac, and Linux. You can just download the installer. Again, with respect to your Eclipse IDE installer, let me just check if I have Eclipse in my machine. So you can just get on to start and you can simply search for Eclipse, in which case you will get the Eclipse shortlisted and downloaded, or shortlisted and shown to you. So you can just click on, you can just type in Eclipse. So my JDK installation is just now initiated. We'll just get on to installation part and just install JDK parallelly. So I don't have Eclipse in my machine. So let me just download that and install it. So you can just click on the 64-bit or 32-bit, whichever you want. So any doubts you have in between, you can just put forth that in the chat window, and maybe either me or Balaji would be able to help you out on that, and you can unmute yourself and get your doubts as well clarified. This isn't just a webinar, this is a session where you can actually interact with as well. Any doubts at any point related to Cucumber or related to industry or related to Selenium product, you can just put forth that in the chat or you can discuss with us. It's completely open. You can just click on this download again. So this would just download a Eclipse installer, which you can just double click, open it and install it stage by stage. That is nothing but choosing on what all products you wanted to install, and choosing on what all different features you wanted to go with respect to Eclipse installation. And you can go ahead with that installer. So my Eclipse is downloaded, my Eclipse installer is downloaded. So you can just click once on that, your installer will initiate out of it, and you can just choose Eclipse IDE for Enterprise Edition developers from the option what you get over there. So it'll ask you what type of Eclipse to install. Eclipse is basically an integrated development environment which would be used in coding different languages. You can do Java, you can do HTML, CSS, you can do Python, Ruby, anything you want you can do on Eclipse. So it'll just ask you on what type of Eclipse to install in your machine. I mean, what type of coding you're going to do, what type of IDE do you want. So in that list, you can just choose Eclipse for Enterprise Edition developers, Eclipse for Java EE developers, where you can actually install Eclipse and you can go ahead with Java coding. I've just initiated the Eclipse installer and waiting for the installation screen to appear. It's a bit slow with installation paths alone with my machine.
Hello, Natarajan.
Yeah,
Yeah, Manoj here.
yes,
Actually,
Manoj.
we do have the many versions and for the Eclipse as well. So, which is the
Yes.
good version to install it?
The latest one is Oxygen 3, and that would be a stable version where you can go with, and that would not create any problems as of now. And if you have any unstable versions, it would not reflect in the front end, rather, it would be in the backend server of the Eclipse, so you need not worry about it. So you can just use any version of Eclipse as of now, and you can
Mm-hmm.
just make use of it in the installation part where you do stage by stage. The difference between various versions of Eclipse is that it would be used in various configurations. When you consider old version of Eclipse, you might not have certain plugins installed, whereas when you consider the new version of Eclipse, you might have those plugins additionally available. But in your old version, still you can add those plugins by externally installing it. So it's always possible from external environment to install the plugins from Eclipse, and there isn't any great differences between the versions of Eclipse, I would say, because it's not going to be linked to the Java version, or it's not going to be linked to the coding standards and all when you consider version of Eclipse, because Eclipse is just a platform which connects various components together. So Java depends on the version what you install. It's not that because of this version of Eclipse, Java is that. So Eclipse is something which pulls your Java, connects it with the coding, what you do. That's it. So it's just a communication platform or an integrated development environment where it's just a coding platform. It doesn't determine what is to be done or how is it to be done, etc. That's all up to you and up to the other dependent files what you install. So you can go with any version of Eclipse as far as versions of Eclipse are concerned.
Thank you.
Welcome. I would just go ahead with the Java installation. The Java installation just initiated on my machine. So I'll just go ahead with this Java installation basically, where you can use next, 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 and give all default values. And you can go ahead with that. And I've also initiated Eclipse installation and should have got initiated shortly. So this is about the Java installation where it straight away downloads the related components and installs all the environment. Once your Java installation is done, you can actually see that JRE and JDK both versions would be available under this program files, which would confirm that you can compile and execute the Java program. JREs are just for execution environment, Java runtime environment. JDK is for Java development kit, which can compile your codes, and JRE has JVMs in it, which can run your codes. So JDK has compiler inbuilt into it. JRE has JVM inbuilt into it, Java virtual machines inbuilt into it, which can execute the code and get you the execution outputs. So this is regarding the Java part. So while these installations are happening, let's just quickly browse through the Cucumber codes. Let's not waste time sitting and staring at the installer screens. So I'll quickly consume the time in working with effective commands or effective activities. Today's session is planned for a duration of 3 hours, where we would be covering all these concepts put forth together. So we'll start with basically the Cucumber part. What is all about Cucumber? How BDD came into existence, or what is the use of it, and where all is it applied in a corporate project? We'll start working on all of those concepts. So I would be sharing a couple of slides with you after the session is done. So one is going to be about Cucumber and the other is going to be about Cucumber Java. So we'll start with about Cucumber now. Basically, when you consider Cucumber is going to be a framework by default that is going to be used by Selenium as a primary component, but everything else in the industry also uses Cucumber. Cucumber is not always linked to Selenium and BDD is not always linked to Selenium. I've seen projects which runs Cucumber on a SQL server, or I've seen projects which runs a Cucumber feature file on a Linux machine, Linux direct DOS applications or Linux applications straight away. Server applications would be executed with Cucumber, where the server applications would be interacted with auto IT and all that. So we'll discuss about auto IT and we'll discuss about various other components in the upcoming sessions. We'll organize sessions for all that as well in the upcoming weeks. So this is going to be a repeated activity. So basically when you consider Cucumber is just a structure. It's a framework structure what we use in the form of use cases. So Cucumber is a terminology. Gherkins is a coding language what you use there. Cucumber is a framework on Selenium and on automation testing and on testing environment, what people have defined it as. And it's going to be used on BDD structure, behavior driven development. So this BDD is something which was born out of TDD, test driven development. So why these all concepts came into existence is, let's say you have a business scenario that you're working with. You cannot approach your client and ask for a use case, or you cannot approach a client and ask for test cases from them. If at all you don't understand a functionality in your application, you cannot approach a client and ask for a test case that you wanted to test the application on. That won't be much professional. So in order to make things professional, they broaden this TDD concept, test driven development concept, where the business people, where every owner of the product, that is the business people, QA people, management people, or the business owner, everyone comes together and plans on the functionalities of the product like use cases. Let's say a user login into my page. I want the user to have a welcome message. So he can just explain the scenario what he wants. He cannot give a test case. Get onto the page, click on login, then see the username over there. He cannot give you the test case, but rather he can give you this sample examples. So Cucumber is something which drives purely on examples. It's example driven framework. So if you can see over here, the second slide of BDD, this would explain clearly about everything. So Cucumber is purely about examples. Examples are then formulated into scenarios and feature files, which are professionally termed as scenarios into it. So you will have various scenarios. Basically, you can consider a feature as a functionality. Let's say login functionality or refund of a product. You book a product on some shopping cart and you wanted a refund on that product. Then that can be explained as a refund scenario, under which you will have positive scenario as well as a negative scenario. Feature is going to be refund, under which you will have positive scenarios as the product is actually booked by the person and the product is defective and a refund is claimed on the product. That is going to be positive scenario. The negative scenarios for this would be like the product is booked by the person, the product is received, but the person doesn't have the bill for that product. He has lost the bill or he has lost the invoice. Then how to handle that particular situation? So it can be taken as an example. Given a person has booked a product for $50 or 500 rupees and he has a valid invoice and he books a refund, then the product should be picked by the delivery person and the amount should be credited back to his account. So you can say an example like this. It's purely like a colloquial language. What you do is what is termed as a feature and scenario activities. When you present this in a proper structured format, it is termed as Cucumber BDD framework. So you have test driven development, what development team generally makes use of. The development team would make use of the test driven development concept. They'll write the test cases first or they'll write the scenarios first, and then they'll just do the execution on that. They'll do the execution to make sure that all the tests are successfully executed. They'll enhance the functionalities. So normally test driven development goes like this. So when you consider test driven development, it goes in this format. So your test driven development is going to be first, let's say login. We are writing a test. Let's say the development team is writing a module for login. The development team is going to do it this way. First, they'll write all the test cases for login. Let's say it should have 8 characters. These are all going to be business needs. Should have alphabets. Should have uppercase and lowercase. So let's say these three are the business needs of login module. In that case, what happens is first the development team will create a login functionality. This login functionality will be first created by the development team. They'll create a functional module. So into this login functional module, whatever they input is going to be accepted. They input pure numbers, they input pure alphabets, they input pure special characters without combinations. They input completely numbers, completely special characters. It's going to be accepted. They input just 4 characters or they input 15 characters, even then it is going to be accepted, which means it is failing at this stage. All are failing now, which is accepting any type of input the user gives. The functionality is not yet met as per the business requirement. Now inside this, they'll write a code to check for the length. They'll write different coding languages, Java, Ruby, Python, according to the application's native language, what they have decided. They'll write the code that will check for the length of the character. This is the first thing they'll implement. Now they again pass all the data into it. They'll pass 5 character data, it will fail, which means the application is working fine. They'll pass 5 character data, they'll pass 20 character data, it will fail. They'll pass 8 character data, it will work, which means the first condition is met. Then they'll apply pure numbers, 8 characters of pure numbers. It is going to pass in that case. So in order to implement this, in order to overcome this failure, the second failure, they'll again apply new contents which will make sure that alphabets are also there. Again, they'll apply list of data into this. Alphabets will be now failing and passing according to the requirement. Business functionalities are going to be met now again. Then the third test case is going to fail. So they'll implement the other rule which can do the third test case. Now the login module is completely built in such a way that all the test cases are purely passing. This is what is termed as test-driven development. First, the test cases will be there. Based on the test cases, the codes will be written. And from there, the testing need not be executed again. Even if the testing is executed again, every test case is going to pass. So this is termed as 100% code coverage technique. Because the codes are written purely to pass your test cases, when you do the reverse, that is when you do the testing on the developed application, all your test cases are going to cover through all the codes written. Because the codes are linked to the test cases, every test case is going to have some code related to it. 100% of the codes would be tested. This is termed as 100% code coverage. So this is the basic test-driven development methodology. On this test-driven development methodology, it's going to take it forward and it's going to be acceptance test-driven development. That is, once the test-driven development application is designed, the testing team is going to just check for the test-driven development methodology, or the testing team is going to check on the application, and that is termed as acceptance test-driven development. Excuse me a minute. There is a urgent call on my mom's mobile. Let me just hand over the mobile to her and be back. Excuse me, just a minute. Sorry about the delay. Yes. So this is termed as acceptance test driven development. So ATDD. In acceptance test driven development methodology, BDD is going to be the concept. The other terminology of BDD is what is termed as acceptance test driven development. So that is what is just depicted over here in this image. That is what is depicted over here in this image. That is acceptance testing. TDD is termed as BDD. So this is altogether termed as a BDD framework. Next, we'll just start with Gherkins, before which we can just go through the installation part. So here you can just choose Eclipse IDE for Java Enterprise Edition developers, and you can just go ahead with that installation. You can just click on install. So here you can choose whether it is 32-bit or 64-bit and which product version you want, and you can just go ahead with the installation. This installation would again download few files and add it to your computer. So you can just leave that, and that's going to consume some time. That is the reason I planned for a balance session between the installation and the theoretical concept. And once the installation is done, we'll start doing the hands-on activities. So you can also get your installations done. Now it's going to be on theoretical stuffs, so you can just hear to it and you can just visually do your installations on your screen. So it has initiated the installation. Let me just get back to the slides of Gherkins. So this particular Cucumber concept is going to be implemented using a coding language termed as Gherkins, as already explained. So this is how basically Cucumber came into existence. BDD came into existence. For using BDD, they just designed a framework termed as Cucumber. So Gherkins, as the name specifies, the meaning of the word Gherkins is nothing but small cucumber. BDD, as it specifies test-driven development, it's going to be purely into test cases, use cases, etc. Gherkins is going to have unit testings of your BDD. BDD Cucumber is a complete framework. Gherkins are short unit testings. So gherkins are nothing but, physically name itself is small cucumber that are used in pickles. Cucumber is a bigger one. Gherkins are smaller pieces of it. So gherkins is nothing but unit testing product. So you will work with unit test cases under your gherkins. Normally a gherkins file will have certain set of keywords like this. So these are all standard keywords that are going to be used in a gherkins file. You will have keywords such as given, when, then, and, feature, scenario, but. All these are going to be different keywords what we would be using in gherkins. So this is what is going to be consisting your entire feature file. Your entire feature file would be coded with these terminologies only. Along with this, we'll have the test case sentences. That is, given I am a user, when I update the right username and password, when I click on the login button, then I should get access to the dashboard, or then I should see the welcome message. So this is how a Gherkins code is going to be compiled altogether. Along with that, in order to achieve the next stages, that is parameterization, in order to pass different set of data at different stages, in order to bring in the repeatability, reusability, all that, we'll use additional terminologies like scenario, outline, examples, background. All these are just for reusability and repeatability. But with just these three lines, that is feature, scenario, given, when, then, and but, just with these three components, we can complete the entire feature file. That is all about the Cucumber Gherkins code. With these three, you can do anything you want in Cucumber. The other concepts what you have here, that is background, scenario, outline, examples, docstring, data table, tags, all these are for enhanced functionalities like selectively running a test case, or if you want to run all test cases with a standard set of precondition, or if you want to execute with parameterization, if you want to pass bigger parameters or bigger files into it, then you work with other functionalities like docstring, table, tags, comments, all that. But these three are the core components. These three lines are the core components. When you consider feature, scenario, given, when, then, and but, these are the steps and keywords. So this is what is going to be comprising the entire Gherkins file. So also have an eye on your installation parallelly. It might ask you for permissions or accept license agreements in between. So you cannot just completely rely on that the installation would complete. It might ask you some permissions in between. Just have an eye on it parallelly. So moving forward, we'll take up examples on Cucumber now. And once the installation is done, we'll start implementing them directly on the execution. So you'll have detailed description of whatever can be done. Just the 2 slides what I'm going to share with you. With that, you can straight away get onto a corporate project on Cucumber if you know the counter programming language. That is, if you know Selenium with Java and you're going to work on web testing with BDD, you can straight away get into the project. If you know about Auto IT and you're working with a project on QTP, or sorry, if you're working with a project on web application, sorry, Windows application, you can get into BDD feature file writing and you can straight away execute a project. So here what I'm going to tell you is how to run just the BDD functionality, but the end result, the functions, what generally happens. So getting onto a web page, updating the username, updating the password, clicking on the sign in button. I can write English statements and that's what I'm going to explain today. But how are they connected to Selenium, or how are they connected to your Windows based automation applications or RPA activities, etc.? You will have to know that particular environment, which maybe we will be discussing in further sessions. But today's scope is all about writing a feature file, integrating them to Selenium with the presumption that you know Selenium. So it's going to be purely a Cucumber session today. So the installation is happening. Let me just get on to the next slide. So here, when you consider features, feature is like the title of your feature file. Your feature file will have the title feature, under which you will write a statement about the feature, login feature, refund item, register. You will have different functionalities. All those functionalities are termed as features. And under the feature, you will have collection of positive and negative scenarios. So these features are going to be stored into a file with the extension of dot feature. So you can say any name for the file, A, B, C, D, E, F, you can say any name for the file, but it would end up with the extension of dot feature, dot feature. If you just end up with that extension, it means it is a feature file. A feature file should always start with feature title. Let me just make use of the notepad now temporarily until the installation is complete. Once the installation is done, you can see that getting decoded and converted into standard contents like keywords and all would be colored over there. Everything would be available under your uh, Eclipse window, Eclipse IDE window. So while that installation is happening, let me just make use of the notepad and show you stage by stage how to write a feature file, what all to populate into it, etc. So any feature file should just end up with a .feature extension. So with that extension, you can create any feature file you want and you can populate it with the title. Feature is otherwise termed as a title. What is the functionality you are going to test? A feature can have positive scenario, negative scenario, and various other neutral scenarios. Say for example, you say wrong credentials or wrong username or wrong login you provide. That can have neutral scenarios like putting empty content. Without anything, you try to click on login. It should not take you inside. This is a neutral scenario example. So you will have various scenarios like that. So let me just take feature title now. So you will have the title feature and this colon specifies the complete keyword. So feature colon is a complete keyword over here. You can specify a title. Let's just consider login scenario. Login into Gmail as a feature. Then you will have various scenarios in it. So you can say, you can write multiple lines of description following the feature. You can say line 1 description, line 2 description, line 3 description, and it can be however long you want, provided there is no keywords starting over here like scenario, given, when, then and all. It will be recognized as a simple description lines. So whatever you write here will be copied onto the documentation. It will not be executed. It will be simply copied onto your report documentation. While creating the Cucumber report, all these descriptions will be copied over there. So you can just simply say, let's just take it to the real-time example of login into Gmail. What all descriptions you can write. So user needs to navigate onto gmail.com and update the right user credentials. I can say the next line as the right user credentials would be Natarajan at clearcodeconsulting.com, and password you can just mention over here. So this is just a note which is going to be copied onto the documentation. This would not be considered in execution part. As such, it would be taken onto your documentation file. That is termed as description. Following the description, you will have scenario. So scenarios are like, as I told you, you will have positive scenarios, negative scenarios, neutral scenarios available. You can say write user login as one scenario, and under the scenario, what are you going to do? You need to update that. So preconditions goes into given. Given is a keyword. It should start with uppercase. No colons for given, when, then, and, but alone. These are all termed as steps. So given, when, then, and but are termed as steps. And these are all termed as Gherkins code. So given I navigate, or given I get access to Gmail web page. This is a precondition. When is going to be the test case? When I update the right username, when I update the, so according to Gmail, you update the username, you need to click on the next button. Everything should be taken as an individual functionality. When I click on next button, yeah,
we are not able. We are not able to see this code.
you're not able to see this code.
Yes,
How about
I can
others?
see full
Maybe because
scenario
the
and
screen is big. Okay. Now, is that visible now?
No, not at all.
still I see Eclipse installer.
Okay, you are getting
Is
just
there?
the
Yeah,
Eclipse
exactly.
installer in it. How about the Notepad page?
Yeah. It's behind that.
I've just brought it to the front
Okay,
panel.
I'll.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So this is how you are going to write. Given I get access to Gmail web page, when I update the right username, when I click on next button, all whens are like individual steps what you write in your test cases in your Excel sheet. So no more Excel sheets are going to be followed. It is going to be pure use cases over here. So Excel sheets would not be followed anymore in the testing activity if it goes to BDD. Your BDD's Excel sheets will be replaced by the feature files. When I click on next button, when I update the right password, when I click on next button, then I should get access to the inbox or to the mailbox. You can just name it however you want. So this is all your own coding language. Just given, when, then are the core keywords. And this doesn't look professional when you see. Given I get access to Gmail web page, when I update the right username, when I click on the next button, when I update the right password, this doesn't look professional or doesn't sound good. So instead we have and. Where things are repeated, you can have and. Where there are multiple conditions or multiple steps, you can just use and. Now it would sound good and it would be professional. So this is all about your writing feature file. Once you write this, the next thing is when this line is read across. So basically you run a Cucumber code, you run a feature file. What happens is it's going to get onto the environment. It's going to get onto the feature file. It's going to just check if the feature files are updated properly. And once all the keywords are available, once the feature title is available, once the scenario title is available, it starts reading from this line. So it will read, given I get access to Gmail web page. So this is the sentence that it will look for definition. This is termed as a step. For this, you will write a definition code in your native languages, Java, Ruby, Python, or any programming language or auto IT you consider. You will write the code in your native languages for this particular step. That is termed as step definition in Cucumber BDD. So for this step, what should happen? So people who know Selenium, I am just giving this example. For this step, you will write the command of Firefox driver, initiate the browser, Firefox or Chrome, whatever you want. Then you say driver.get gmail.com. That is what you are going to do under this step. So under this type, run those 2 lines of Selenium code. Then you will automatically land on Gmail page. Then when this step is read across, you will say driver.find element, find the username box and say .send keys, pass the username there. You will have that one line of Selenium code there. When I click on the next button, find the next button using Selenium driver.find element, click on the next button, click. So that is how you are going to link every step that you write in a feature file to Selenium. So if you know Selenium, just this 1.5 hour of Cucumber session or 2 hours of Cucumber session, what I'm going to cover now, is going to directly take you onto BDD framework. There is nothing difficult that you have over here. If you already know Selenium, you're already working with Selenium, or you're already working with any other product, you wanted to implement Cucumber there. You're already working with DB testing in automation. You're already working with some automation coding project. You are going to split the code into pieces. Normally what you will have is you will have a single file which has all code put into it as a single content in Java. When you write a Cucumber, you are going to split that into pieces and write it. That is what is all about your Cucumber. It will just split your things into pieces and your assertions will go under then. You will assert if you have properly got onto the mailbox by checking on some content or checking for presence of some elements, etc. That goes into your then condition. So then is going to be assertions. This is how your basic Cucumber code is going to be written. So when you consider the slides, you will have the same over there. You will have a feature followed by feature. You can have multiple descriptions. You can provide rules for the feature. If it is going to be a login scenario, like we had different rules for login. We had that it should be 8 characters. It should be minimum alphabets, numbers put together. It should be different uppercase, lowercase characters, special functionalities. You have rules for that. You can specify the rules also under description, under your feature. That is where you will get clear documentations. So apart from this, you can also mention the rules. User should have already registered. User should have a valid mobile number. If suppose you are doing two-step verification of SMS verification or authentication, etc., or maybe you consider a banking application, you will have two-step authentication before you log in, then you will have this as a rule. So you can just mention all the rules over here, which would be straight away copied onto the document. So the report that is going to be generated out of this Cucumber file. So that is how things are going to be with respect to your BDD Cucumber feature files. You can write down all your rules. Then we'll get on to the next concept, that is scenario on slides. I have just explained you everything. I'll just get over with the slides just to show you what is there on slides. So scenarios are nothing but a business rule that is going to be implemented. Positive scenarios and negative scenarios are going to be there. Followed by you will have the steps which has given, when, then, and but are used to replace given, when, then. So you have a contrary, you can use but. You have multiple steps, you can use a and you can split them. So this is all about your basic steps. Then getting on to background. So let's say this is positive scenario. On the contrary, or on the other hand, you can have another scenario which is going to be wrong user credentials or empty user credentials. Under this, given I get access to, and one more thing to be noted with a BDD Cucumber feature file is one scenario is going to be managed in such a way that for people working on Selenium or for people working on web automations or basically web testing, one scenario is something where the user opens a browser, does the activity, closes the browser at the end. The next scenario should again initiate from the scratch. That is how unit testings are going to be. That is how Gherkins codes are going to be. You cannot carry forward the session because every time the scenario keyword is read across, your step definition file will start reading from 0th line. From the first line of Java, it starts reading. Yes, Raghav. So what is the doubt you have? Okay, yeah, you can go ahead pinging on the chat. Maybe I'll continue with the session. Once your question is there, I'll answer to it. Okay, so you can have multiple scenarios, and scenarios are going to be like, first you need to start the browser, do some activities, close the browser. As I told, Gherkins are unit testing. Unit testings are something where you test individual units, small units. So you will have to do that with respect to the BDD Cucumber. You cannot carry forward the session. You say the next scenario title you get here, it will start doing it from the scratch. From the first line, again, it will start reading through the scenario file. It will start reading through the step definition file. So the browser, what you have already initiated, is not going to be held onto the memory. A new browser is going to be initiated anyway, since it's reading from the first line of your Java again. So that's how it's going to be. So every scenario, you need to consider initiating the browser. End of the scenario, you need to consider closing the browser. All these should be considered while writing the feature file. So assertions are present in then. What is the above given and or unsteps execution and proceed? Sorry. Yeah. Unsteps are failed for some reason. Yeah. So if the steps fails in between, it will just stop there. It will not execute further. It will just stop there in between. You can also have a control of all that. You can just check if the step has passed or failed. You can get the status of all the steps. That's a good question at this right point. So you can have a status of all the steps and you can take it forward by checking the status of whether the step has passed or failed. Normally the scenario will completely fail. If a step fails in between, it will stop there. It will not go beyond that. So I think my installations are done. No, not it. Okay. So given I get access to Gmail web page, the precondition is going to be same. So here for this, you will have to write Selenium codes, but here you need not write the Selenium code because this statement is already having some Selenium definition for it. This is the main reason why BDD is trending in the industry. You write the statement in the same way, you need not define it again, which means when the business people are writing the feature file, when they write the feature file in proper structure, reusing the statement that other test functionalities are using, you might have login functionality, you might have register functionality. So you might have defined the steps for everything individually. Let's say you have executed 50 test cases using BDD. Then you would have covered almost all functionalities in your application. Maybe you will have to change the combination in which you work. You might have to get onto a page and you might have to get onto a different page from there. You might change the combination in which you work. Like for example, if you work with some other functionality, let's say you have got onto the drafts, you delete the drafts available there. And if there are no more drafts available, it should by default take you to inbox. Then I should get access to mailbox is something which would occur there as a post condition again, which would occur there as an assertion again. So let's say you have got onto a mail and you deleted the mail. It should take you back to the inbox. So there the scenario is different, but the end condition is same, which means you can write this particular statement and achieve your activity as an assertion there also in that scenario also. in which case you need not define that inbox should be there, this should be there, that should be there and all, because it's already defined. You just write the feature file step alone there. That is the main reason why people get onto feature files, or why people get onto BDD Cucumber. So once you have designed some 50 test cases, you would have covered various business functionalities, which would be happening on different pages. Then the same business functionalities can be used in different permutation combination for covering your other upcoming test cases. Let's say you have cleared login, you have cleared register. Now, if you want to delete a mail, you will obviously have to get on to Gmail. You will obviously have to do the login functionality. Then getting into the mailbox and deleting that alone would be a individual functionality there. In which case, you can recall these functions just by writing the statement alone. You need not define it again. So if you have covered 50 test cases, from there on, your project shifts on to the business team. You will no more have the project with you. Or you will not be writing the scripts, you will be writing the feature file if the business team is not doing that. Depends on the organization, depends on the way you work with your organization, etc. Once you write the feature file, your testing is done there. You need not define every step again and again. And you cannot define also. You say, I get access to Gmail web page. You say as driver.getgmail.com. For this, I get access to Gmail web page. For the second scenario, you cannot say driver.getgoogle.com/gmail. It will not work. It will throw error that there are duplications of the same implementation available. Which means you can have only one definition for one statement. If you want this to navigate onto google.com/gmail, then you will have to say Gmail web page under Google, which means it becomes a different statement. So this is a different statement, this is a different statement. You can give different definitions for both the statement. If you have same statement, you cannot give different definitions. You will have to make use of the same definition available there. Which means once some test cases are covered, later on the project can be managed by writing the feature file itself. You need not write the step definition, you need not write your coding, you need not write your scripting. Whereas when you consider today's automation testing industry that is using keyword or page object, you will have to at least call the function wherever you wanted to execute, for which you will have to get onto the coding environment, do some coding there. But this one, you need not get onto the coding. As I design now in the notepad, you can just design it in the notepad, save it as a dot feature and go also, provided you are expertise with the keywords. If you may get some errors on your keywords, if you may experience some difficulties on your keywords, then your IDEs like Eclipse, or you have separate IDEs where you can do Cucumber coding or BDD coding, and you can just do feature file construction alone there. You don't do any coding environments there. So those IDEs are also available. You have Cucumber IDEs available where it's purely for writing feature file. So it would do parameterizations, or it would do syntax mappings, and then it will check if that is that particular line is implemented or not. Is the statement used right? Is the syntax used right? It will check on all that, and it will let you know with the warnings or errors what can fix the errors. Provided your expertise with the coding of Gherkins, you can do it in Notepad, save it and go off. Your testing is done there. Once you cover 50 to 100 test cases in your application. From there on, for every test case, hardly for 10 scenarios, you might write one definition. Once you have covered 100 test cases, beyond that, whatever test cases comes in as new functionalities in your application, hardly you might write one or two step definitions for 10 scenarios you write in the feature file. The remaining all step definitions would have been already implemented in the earlier format. This is how your BDD Cucumber is going to work. So any doubts till this point? So this is all about the scratch of your Cucumber. You write this, you map it to the code what you want, and you execute it. So the mapping part is what we would be covering shortly. So any doubts, you can just get it clarified. I want a short break of 5 minutes. I just have a sore throat now since I've been talking for last 1 hour. You can get your doubts clarified. Maybe I can handle it soft. Yeah.
Nataraj, can I ask now?
Yes, please.
let's say, for example, there are some scenarios where there is a dependency. Scenario one is depending on the scenario two. In such, how we want to segregate these scenarios? You want us to write some independent feature files, or if there is a dependency, how we can handle such scenarios?
You can handle the dependencies on the scenarios by using tags. So you can say @t1, and here for the scenario 2 you can just add a tag @t2, which you would be having in the upcoming slides where we would be discussing about tags. Since you put forth the question, I'm just answering it now. So you can have tags, and you can just check if tag 1 is completely executed and successful, and then you can say start executing tag 2. You can provide priorities in the tags as well. So you can say P1, P2. So first P1s would be executed, then P2s would be executed, but that would be independent. Whereas when you say tags, or you can say P2 is dependent on P1, you can check for the status of the tag T1 execution. First you can say execute T1. You can check for the entire test execution status. Once that is successful, you can start executing T2. Or if you say dependencies, you can create the tag in your own terminology, D1, D2. D2 is dependent on D1, you can say. So all this you can control externally.
Thanks, Tony. One more question, though it is an advanced question. Like, can we achieve parallel execution here? So, how we can achieve this parallel execution?
Yeah. So if you want to do parallel executions at this stage, you will have to just first taking up every scenario individually. So parallel execution inbuilt into Cucumber is not provided. It's something what you derive out of either using TestNG framework or using JUnit framework and splitting them into individual test cases and executing them parallelly, where you will have to write a separate Java file. That file will create the runner file. Normally you will have a controller for your Cucumber codes. You will have a file termed as a runner file, using which you will specify which feature file should execute, which feature file should not execute, what is the scenario that should run at that point in time. You can just specify all that in the runner file of your Cucumber. That is, while integrating now with Selenium, I will be showing you about the runner file. So that runner file is something what we create and we store it. But if you want to do parallel execution, you will have to write a Java code that will construct the runner file. So normally in Java, you can in Java or any programming language, you can construct bigger files as per your requirement. You can just construct files like you can just get on to notepad file, or you can construct a Java file, or you can construct any size of bigger files you want, or any data type of files you want, any extension of files you want, and you can connect over there. Just give me a minute. My laptop has got fixed and I'm able to access there. So there I have my installations already done. So I'll just switch the mission just by answering your questions parallelly. So you can just get onto the runner file over there, and from the runner file, sorry, you'll have to write a Java file which would create a runner file. So from Java, you say new file output stream, and you say the file name as .txt. It would just get saved as .txt file. In that case, you can just create a runner file which would just create the .java file as per your requirement. You need to write an external Java program which can create multiple runner files. Then you will have to get onto the threading concept, or you will have to get onto the TestNG framework, which could execute activities parallelly. Cucumber as such doesn't have anything about parallel execution in it. Like your TestNG basically have a parallel execution for data providers and parallel execution for various test scenarios or test cases, and test level execution and parameter level execution, or your file level execution, or maybe method level executions. You can do parallelly in TestNG in Selenium. You don't have that available in Cucumber framework by default. So you will have to work with the Java concept, the networking concept or threading concept. You will have to place this Cucumber on TestNG. You will have to use the other environments. Using your development skill, you will have to achieve the parallel execution. Yep. So any more questions or queries?
Is there a way where we can retry analyzer, like fail test cases execution. Is it available in here also, Cucumber? Like I want to second time when I execute only I want to execute fail test scripts.
Yes, that is possible. So your failed test cases can be accumulated together. That's again from an external environment where you accumulate all your failed test cases and you execute it. Or you also have choices where you can selectively run a scenario that you want to execute. And normally when you consider your C sharp, in C sharp you will have a test environment where it will list down what all have passed, what all have failed. You can selectively run. So that's all about the integrations what you generally do. Say for example you use a testng framework, you want to run the failed test cases, then obviously your Cucumber failed test cases are going to be listed down under testng failed test cases when you do a project on testng and Cucumber put together. So Cucumber cannot sustain individually. Cucumber can go in with JUnit or with testng only. Now we would be doing Cucumber with JUnit. Cucumber with testng is again, as I told you, is breaking through the code, constructing external runner files and generating. I have a readily available framework for testng which I'd be able to share with you people, provided you're working on testng concept already. But Cucumber readily can be constructed from scratch from JUnit easier. If you want to do it on testng, you will have to break through the codes. You will have to use some abstract classes and all that. You will have to do in interface concepts and all, and you will have to bring in the concept of testng into your Cucumber. So I have a pre-designed project there where you can straight away start writing the step definition. The testng framework would be readily available there, and you would be able to access all the functionalities or all the annotations of testng, like before test, after test, before suit, after suit, before method, after method, all that, and you would be able to execute it over there when you just construct that particular testng Cucumber project. So that is constructed on Maven actually. So now also we are going to work on Maven JUnit, where we will be taking it forward using JUnit with Cucumber, and we will be installing all the jar files of Cucumber JUnit, and we will be executing that. So any more doubts or queries? Okay, yeah. Just give me a couple of minutes. I'll just have a cup of water and I'll be back. We'll start with the Eclipse file. And in the meantime, you have any issues with the installation or with respect to Eclipse or with respect to different environments, or you have any doubts with respect to Selenium, Balaji would be able to help you on that. And he is expertise with Selenium basics in Java and with Cucumber and C Sharp. So he would be handling probably the next week session on C Sharp integration with Selenium. So most of you would be working on Java. We also want people to know how people can easily migrate from Java knowledge with C Sharp. So we would be planning that session in the next week, most probably earlier, so that few candidates can connect from US base as well. Now, a few of the candidates have requested the recorded session because they could not connect from US being late night over there. So we are planning to have a session and her early next week. We would be putting forth a mail on that to you over invitations. We'll be sending you across the invitations and registration links. So it would be a bit more professional next week, where you can actually register, and everything would be optional again there. We are not collecting any data, so your mail IDs or different stuffs would be optional over there. Once you just register, we just wanted to know how many people are interested with. So once you register and click on a register button, you will directly get the link that you can access to the mail like you had yesterday with Google link and with invite link. So that's how it's going to be from the next session. We are planning to just streamline this and take it a bit more professional. And we would have this every week on different concepts, or we would be repeating this once in 2 months and activities like that. We would be having different set of audience over there. So we would be repeating this session where you can again take a repeat session. We don't have records of who have taken and who have not taken and all that. So this is going to be completely open platform just for branding clear code consulting, where we actually work with training related activities for corporate. Provided we don't have any corporate trainings or we don't have any personal schedules on Sundays, we would be connecting. So this is going to be happening 90% of all Sundays, and around this time of 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, according to the convenience of the participants who are joining. We would be also exploring on SOAP UI web service testing tool. So we are now planning to get into all testing products in detail and explain about them. and working with JavaScript and Protractor and working with JavaScript framework that is trending into the industry would again be one more session. So we would be having continuous sessions on all of these in the upcoming weeks. So people who would like to take up these sessions can just put forth your mail ID to Balaji, and we would be having a loop of all mails put forward, and we would be sending across the invite. And we would also start a WhatsApp group where we can actually share the invites straight away to you rather than sharing on the other groups. So we'll take it forward stage by stage, and we are streamlining the activity. Excuse me a minute, let me just have a glass of water and be back. So any doubts in the installation of Selenium, you can get it clarified from Balaji in the meantime. in either of the plugin, Cucumber feature or natural plugin. And let me start a Maven project, because basically when you consider Cucumber, as I told you, it integrates with various environments, Java, JUnit, and then it integrates with core Cucumber. So you'll have lots of jar files which you need to add if you start a basic project. So when you add a Maven project, you can create dependencies which would in turn download the internal dependencies by default. So the related jar files would be automatically downloaded if you simply say Cucumber as a dependency. So I'll go with Maven project, or what is the use of Maven project, how to construct a Maven project, how to construct builds and goals in Maven project. We'll discuss about them in further sessions. So today I'll directly go with the Maven project with the default settings. I'll just give the group ID as com.clearcode.automation and the project name as Cucumber. So when you consider dependencies on Cucumber, you can just get on to Maven repository, mvnrepository.com, where you can actually download the dependencies. You can just search for Cucumber. You will have list of Cucumber dependencies, that is Cucumber JUnit, Cucumber Java, Cucumber Core, all these. So we'll go with Cucumber JUnit. We need that in order to work with Selenium testing. So we'll go with Cucumber JUnit. When you consider Cucumber JUnit, you can see that Cucumber JUnit internally depends on Cucumber Core and JUnit. So Cucumber Core, you need not separately install it or add it. By default, this is going to be added because JUnit depends on this. And similarly, when you consider Cucumber Java 1 to 5, you can choose a version. And you have over here, Cucumber Java in turn depends on Cucumber Core. So both of these has Cucumber Core as dependencies. You just need to install these two dependencies alone, Cucumber Java, Cucumber JUnit. So you can just copy Cucumber Java, get onto your pym.xml and add the dependency. This is the way in which we can create a Maven project. Maybe we'll discuss about this. This is not a scope of today's discussion. Just to set up an environment for also executing Selenium, I'm doing all these. Normally, if you want to just do Cucumber alone, if you want to just learn feature file alone, that is the scope of today's session. You can create a simple Java project. You can just get onto new and you can just create project under which you can choose Java project. You can just create a simple Java project. All that you need to do is just install some plugin of Cucumber, what you did now, and you can create a simple basic Java project without adding anything. Provided you wanted to connect to Selenium or you wanted to connect to any third-party application, you will have to add those libraries. The base Cucumber, you need not have anything. You just need the plugin to be available. So here I can just say Cucumber 2 as a project name for basic Java project. And on this basic Java project, I can just create a folder. So on this basic Java project, I'll just expand the project and I'll create a folder. On the source folder, I'll just say new folder. I'll name it as features. And inside that, I'll just say new file test.feature. You can create any file with a .feature extension and that becomes the feature file. So as I told you, natural plugin would just get you an empty file. Whereas if you have installed Cucumber feature file plugin and you have created this feature file, it would have populated about 30-40 lines of code, which provides you a sample of how you can write a feature file. Like I showed you an example in that mission in Notepad, it will just provide you a sample of how you can write the feature file. In natural plugin, you will have to write the feature file step by step. So you can say feature as a title, the same thing what I used there, and you can just mention the feature title, that is Gmail login feature, and you can provide descriptions or rules for that feature. You can say rules as user should have registered, and these warnings are something what gets populated in the IDEs, whereas you don't get that in Notepad. So it says that you haven't created a scenario and you haven't created steps. So since you have written feature alone, it's throwing an error. Once you create scenario and once you write given as a step, the error will be gone. I'll show you that stage by stage. So you can just provide business rules of multiple lines over here, followed by, you can say scenario, write user credentials, followed by, you can provide description for the scenario as well, and you can say given I get access to Gmail web page when, as you can see there, once I write the given line, the error is gone. It's now converted to warning. Warning means I haven't written a definition for this step. This is just a step I have written. I haven't written any definition yet for this step. That is the warning what you will have over here. So from the warnings itself, you can know what all are defined and what are all not defined. Given I get access to Gmail web page when I update the right username and I update the, and I click on the next button, and I update the right password and I click on the next button, then I should get access to the inbox, or I should get access to the mailbox. So this is going to be one scenario. I'll just copy the scenario as such, paste it again, where I'll say wrong user credential or empty user credential. So under empty user credential, given I get access to Gmail web page is going to be the same. I update the right username should be changed as I update a empty username, and I click on the next button, then I should get a error message. So this is going to be one scenario. Similarly, you can have other scenario which says empty password, or you can say wrong username, a username that doesn't exist. Given I get access to Gmail web page when I update a wrong username and I click on the next button, then I should get a error message. So is the error message going to be same in both the cases? Certainly it would not be with respect to Gmail. So let's try that. I'll get on to incognito window where I just get on to Gmail. On this, I update the username as 123456789. Hit enter. Enter valid email or phone number is what I get as a error. Let's say I've left it empty. Click on next. Enter an email or phone number is the error that we get. So there are different types of errors. But if you do it this way, the same code you write in both scenarios, it should have only same expectation. So I should get a error message for empty int. I should get an error message for invalid input. So you can segregate into two different categories by specifying them with a proper extension, which means those are two different steps. Until you have them as I should get an error message, it will look for only one definition. You cannot give two definitions. You cannot duplicate definitions. So these are all problems what you have, or these are all challenges or conditions what you have with respect to feature file. That is the reason I wrote 3 scenario over here. Now, this is all about your feature file in basic. If you are able to do this, you can easily get onto Cucumber BDD. You can start writing the feature files according to your functional activities, and you can start executing. Henceforth, moving forward is going to be advanced concepts. So first, we'll try to integrate this to our Java code or Selenium code so that you see some visuals rather than just working with assumptions. Let me just get on over here, update the dependency onto my Maven project. So I'll remove this JUnit. JUnit dependency I'm not going to work with, and I'll just delete these packages that are default created in Maven. So I'll just capture the dependency code of Cucumber Java, update it over here. Then capture the dependency code of Cucumber JUnit. And you can just update it over here. So once you have updated these two dependency codes, you save it. You can see those dependencies will in turn download jar files. Normally, if you have created a basic project, you should have added all these jar files individually. But when we are writing a Maven project dependency code, it is able to locate them and identify them, easily map them to the required dependency code and get the jar files as per the expectation. So that is the problem what you have. So that is the advantage what you have with respect to this Maven project. Moving forward, once all these dependencies are available, we can just add the Selenium dependencies as well, since we are going to work with Selenium project. You can just search for Selenium. The latest version of Selenium is 3.11. You can just copy that dependency and apply it in your POM file so that you can do Selenium coding parallelly. So onto the POM file, we'll just add up that dependency as well, save it. So Selenium files also gets added to your Maven dependencies. So all Selenium files are added. Now we can just start with the execution. You can just copy this feature file. Maybe from this feature folder itself, you can copy it, put it onto either source test Java or source main Java, so that the feature file comes under a package. Open the feature file. This is the new feature file what we have updated in the Maven project. Maven project, I am going to use it now in order to integrate with Selenium and run it on Selenium requirements. So first thing I need is, I need an external engine that can read through this feature file step by step. In order to map the feature file to the step definition, I want an external runner. So I'll create a runner in the same location. Now temporarily create everything in the same location. Later on, we'll work on how to construct a framework where everything is well organized and working fine. So now you try to create everything in the same location so that everything is interlinked and it can look for the required files within the same folder itself. You need not confuse between the folders initially. So we'll say new class file, that is runner file. It's going to be a JUnit file, so you need not include public static void main over there. To this runner file, you just need to add @run with cucumber dot class, which means use the cucumber class from the package cucumber java, cucumber core info cukes, and cucumber JUnit packages. Use the cucumber class file and run it. That's what we say over here. Run with cucumber.class. What this does is, this will start running the cucumber file inside this pack. We'll have Java codes that will search for the feature file, like test.feature is there itself. So it will search for the presence of the feature file, execute the feature file step by step. And that execution will be taken care with the support of Gherkins file. You have Gherkins.jar file. So your Java can read through the feature file using this Gherkins package. You have everything integrated when you say those two dependencies alone. When you say Cucumber JUnit and Cucumber Java, everything is integrated and brought forth there. Now, under this, you can simply execute this runner class. This is all you have as a runner code for running your feature file. You can simply right click on this and say run as JUnit test. It will start executing all the steps and it will throw a implementation error onto your console, which says these methods are not defined. So define the method by using this code. It will give you the straightaway code what you can use to define the method. Once you have created your feature file, once you have your runner file defined with one step, your entire project activity is done, your struggle is done there. From there on, it's going to be your old activity of writing Selenium code, if you are a Selenium tester. So you will be getting methods like this. Under this, I get access to Gmail web page. You can write a couple of lines of Selenium code that will open the browser, get you access to Gmail web page. So from here on, it's going to be purely coding of Selenium alone, nothing else apart from that. With respect to your Cucumber, the session will have again how to do parameterization, how to achieve that. But with respect to a Cucumber project, your activity is done. With this, you can start with coding on what should be done under every method. You can just copy all these together. All these are implementations that you need to do. You can copy them, create one more class file termed as step definition under the feature folder itself. Because basically it will be looking for the same folder only. If you create it somewhere else, you need to write a code that can map the location also. We'll be doing that shortly. To start with, you can just create it within the same package so that it search for its dependency within that location itself. So you can just name it as step definition, step DEFN. You can just give whatever name you want. And that is also not going to have public static void main. So under the step DEFN, the given when then implementations what you have copied, put it into your core class file. That's it. Your project is done with this. From here, it's all about the logics of Java, what you apply, the Selenium codes, what you write, all that, or whatever language you use, that corresponding coding, what you write. You just need to import given, when, then, like you do imports on your JUnit test ng activities. You need to just do imports and you can remove the pending exception. Normally this pending exception will throw an error on your screen telling that this is yet pending to be implemented. So you can remove the pending exception. And maybe throwable can also be removed. That is something which is written for the pending exception throw. When you remove the pending exception, you can remove throwable as well. This is going to be a structured project with basic setup. So we aren't doing any framework setup over here. When you say framework setup, you can do page object model on Cucumber. You can do keyword driven on Cucumber. All that you have in Selenium can also be done on Cucumber as well. In order to get in reusability, repeatability, or you'll have annotations as well available before, after, given, when, then, or annotations by default, which Cucumber would be using. Apart from this, you have before, after, all that available. So you can remove all of these throwable and the internal component. This becomes a code for your usage now. That's it. From here on, you can just update the corresponding Selenium code into every module. Since you are going to update it across multiple modules, it's better to have a public WebDriver so that that shares a common platform across everything. And especially when you work with WebDrivers, you need the driver files to be available. So you can again bring the driver file, place it into your project, into drivers folder, give system.setProperty, initiate a URL, do all that. So I'll show you a sample practical code on Selenium. People who don't understand Selenium can just ignore this. People who don't work on Selenium can ignore this. Maybe we'll discuss in further sessions on introduction to Selenium. We'll create sessions where we provide introduction to Selenium. We say how Selenium can be coded, what all installations you need to go with Selenium, all that. So this session is purely on BDD Cucumber. So I'll just give some samples so that you see some visual outputs. Once these are all implemented and you execute the code, everything will be mapped to the implementation. You can see the result output, which says all 32 test cases, 32 steps have passed. It's because when you say I get access to Gmail web page, it will come on to this particular title, I get access to Gmail web page. It will just see for only the statement. It will not see if it is given or when or then. Those are all just some dummy annotations what you have. Those don't have effect at all. You can write this as then and even then it will work. These are all some dummy steps only. So this is the actual controller, what it will look for. If this matches, it will start executing this method. Under this method, we have nothing written, so the method is going to pass successfully. That is how all the test cases are getting passed, and you have list of test steps available over here. Now you start implementing Selenium code, it will start executing that step by step according to what it has executed over here.
Natarajan, I have one question.
Yes.
So if we change the steps inside the test features, so it will automatically change over here as well on the runner class?
On the runner class, you need not align them actually. So as I told you, in the feature file, we have I get access to Gmail web page in 3 layers. You will not have all the 3 repeated. This itself is going to repeat for 3 times. So this can be in any way you want. Need not be a single file. You can write a part of this in one file, a part of this in other file also. It can be shattered however you want. It can be up and down and up. Any way you want, it can be. Your feature file is the main controller. According to what it is here, that is how it's going to run. So if it reads this statement, I get access to Gmail web page, it will search for associated step definition files. Into that step definition file, if it will check where that is mentioned, and it will directly pick it. It need not be always in the first, it need not be always in the last according to the order in which you have written in the feature file. Your step definition can be ordered any way you want. Your feature file is what is going to consider the order and run it.
So what I will change inside the test feature, like I get access to Gmail, in place of that I will change that thing, so it will automatically replace over that on that step definition?
Yes. So let's say you have this as a first page. I click on next button. You put it over here. That's
okay.
all. Your test is going to execute in this order. You don't have anything. Just changing the feature file alone will do everything. Only thing is, you need to have the corresponding implementation written there. It can be wherever you want. So your step definition is nothing but collection of functionalities. That's what I would say. Step definition is not an execution engine. It's just collection of functionalities. You will have individual functionalities collected together. That's all. When you expand your step definition class, you can see all the functionalities listed over here. So these functionalities you can use in your testing. That's all. It can be used in any order you want.
Okay.
So moving forward, now you can see that in your feature file, there is no warnings, which says the implementation is done. So we have created functions, which means the implementation is done. From here on, it's your skill of applying your programming language, doing activities. So Cucumber supports you till this point, getting you the framework designed. Inside the framework, it's up to your skill of writing Java code or Selenium code or Ruby code, whatever you want in those corresponding languages. Normally, if you do this in Ruby, again, you will have the same structure. Maybe the syntax would be slightly different. You will have, instead of public void, you will have do, which means functions. And in Python, you will have the same way. You will have def in Python, which means it's a function. So just the keyword and syntax is going to change, but the structure is the same on all programming languages. Now let me just add a couple of Selenium codes internally to show you the visual activities. So I'll have to add the driver file in order to work with Selenium. I need the WebDriver file. I'll just directly place it inside my project rather than adding system.setProperties and all. So under downloads, I have the driver file available. Chrome driver.exe, I'll just copy that, get on to my project, create a folder named as drivers and just paste it there. So now I'll just get on to my code. I'll say system.setProperty webdriver.chrome.driver driver/chrome driver.exe and then driver is equal to new Chrome driver. So driver would be initiated, and we would also have maximize, implicit wait, all that. Driver.manage.timeouts.implicitly wait. Then you can say driver.manage.window.maximize. This is a professional standard of immediately maximizing and fixing an implicit wait anytime you initiate a driver. So this three codes comes together irrespective of whatever driver you initiate. There is some industrial standard or best practices what you can use. Then followed by, we have got access to the page now. That is, we have got access to Gmail. So we need to add a code that will get access to Gmail. Driver.get http gmail.com. So we have got access to Gmail now. Then once you have got access, I update the right username. You can say, so let me get on to incognito window. Inspect. So it's going to be of ID is equal to identifier ID or name is equal to identifier. You can just use that. Driver.find element by name dot send keys. We are using right user credential, so I'll just give my right mail ID natarajan at clearcodeconsulting.com. I click on the next button, which means we need to locate the next button and click on it. So on this page, we need to locate this next button. Do a click on that. So that has span next. We'll have a session again on a detailed session on locators, maybe for an hour, maybe later on. So how to use XPath or how to use different types of locators and locating the element. We'll split up Selenium into individual components and cover every concept in every week, maybe 1 hour, 2 hours, or 3 hours accordingly. So here you can say driver.findElement by XPath span text is equal to next dot click. So it clicks on the next button. I update the right password. So once it clicks on the next button, we need to update the password. Since I would not be exposed the password on this platform, what I'm going to do now is I'll just provide a thread.sleep of 30 seconds where I will manually update the password. So I will manually update the password in this gap of 30 seconds. And after that, it will click on the next button again. So it is going to inspect the next button fresh and then click on it again. The next button that would appear on the password login screen. Then I should get access to the mailbox. So getting access to the mailbox, you will have inbox link available inside Google Gmail. Since I have worked with Gmail already, I am able to tell that it is inbox is a link. So I'll just use that straight away over here. Driver.findElement. So it is assertion. So you can say assert true. Driver.findElement by link text inbox dot is displayed. This is what I want once it is successfully logged in. Assert generally would be called from framework assert, but it is now re-navigated onto a different package. So you can just remove that and again import it from org junit. So with this, your functionalities are done. The basic activities are done. Maybe I'll have to add the functionality of working with close browser after this. So here I'll say driver.quit because I'm initiating a new browser. When I say I get access to Gmail web page, my next scenario is obviously going to open a new browser and work with it. So I get access to Gmail is automatically going to open a browser. I update a empty username, which means I should not do any send keys activity. I should directly click on the next button. So I can leave that empty. Rather than telling empty username, I can leave that empty, or alternatively what I can do is I can do a clear activity there. So that even if something is available by default there, it is cleared and it tests for an empty username. So your code should be more professionally written like this step by step. I should get error message for empty input. So what is the error message I get for empty input? Enter an email or phone number. Inspect that. So that falls under enter an email or phone number. No, Komal. Basically, we do not need a logout code here because we are quitting the browser. Once you quit the browser, the another browser with Selenium opens is going to be a fresh browser which doesn't have login stored in the memory. So because of the functionality of Selenium, you do not. But your question is right and your thought is right. Provided you are working on some other operating activities or like QTP or some other tool, maybe you will have to quit and you will have to complete your activity. But here, the functionality of Selenium is such a way that the browser it opens is a fresh browser, automatically it would have logged out. So I'm not adding the logout code. So your thought and your question is right. So we need the presence of this error message. So you can just capture this error message. You can again say driver.findElement. So this is a then condition. So you can say assert true. driver.find element by xpath /div text is equal to, you can just paste the text completely there. So this should be displayed. And similarly, I update wrong username. So you can just capture this. You can say dot send keys. Excuse me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. If you provide 10 digit, it becomes a proper mobile number. It would tell this mobile number doesn't exist or something. A different set of error might happen. That is all about the business rule of Gmail. So once you are into a real-time corporate environment, you will be able to specify what is the rule and you will be able to specify assertion points accordingly. I update the wrong username credentials. Sorry, this should have come above. Then over here, you can just assert for the error message. Which says enter a valid email or phone number. So this is all about your test scenarios. Let me just execute the code now. It would do all the 3 testing one after the other, where for the first successful testing, I'll have to manually intervene and update the password alone, because I would not be able to expose the password on the platform. Otherwise, it's going to be a complete autonomous testing. So it updates the username, clicks on the next button. I'll have to update the password over here. And I'll leave it so that it automatically clicks on the next button after 30 seconds. I've given a wait time of 30 seconds. So after 30 seconds, it will click on the next button on its own. So it clicks on the next button. It takes us inside where the page is still loading. Until the page completes loading, it is not going to inspect the environment. Once the page completes loading, it's going to inspect the presence of inbox. But inbox as such is not a link over here. Inbox bracket 6 is a link. So assertion would have failed. And so the browser is held open. The browser is not yet closed, because assertion has failed there. Inbox is not going to be identified. So after 30 seconds, it cannot identify the inbox. So it will leave the browser open, get on to the next test. Because browser open is a part of my step. If it is a part of your precondition, postcondition, such as before and after, it would have executed browser open and browser close. So here it updates invalid detail, and here it just updates a empty email and clicks on the next button. Let's get back and see. You can see that these 2 scenarios have successfully passed. And I haven't added a driver quit after this assertion. If I have added a driver quit after this assertion, it would have closed it. So let me just update all the failures what I faced and make it a successful execution. It should have not been inbox, it's a link text inbox. It should have been partial link text inbox, so that it can identify inbox with brackets as well. Now I'll just close all the 3 environments. Something what you do before and after every time can be put into @before and @after. So you have annotations available for Cucumber as well. So you can say @after. Public void after driver.quit. So you can import @after from Cucumber API. Import after from Cucumber. And you can remove driver quit on individual steps now. So you can just remove this. You can remove this. And this one. Save it and execute it. And there are few queries accumulated. I'll just answer to them now. So can we encrypt in place of password instead of entering it manually? No, we would not be. So you cannot encrypt the password over here. If in case you wanted to encrypt the password, yes, you can do it with libraries. So you need encryption libraries that would just consider all these scenarios, do various activities by using the libraries, and then you can just take it forward by encrypting the password. So I had manually clicked on the next button, I think. I did not leave it to click. So someone who has asked the question, what if it fails in between? Here it's going to fail in the place of clicking on next button because it could not find the next button here. In this window, it will not be able to find the next button. As you can see there, it has stopped the execution there. And since I had an after method driver.quit, it has closed the driver. So it hasn't executed then at all. So your question is answered here for someone who has questioned me on what will happen if something happens in between. So I unknowingly clicked on the next button. I should have left it after updating the username password. It should click on the next button. That is what I have written the code as. Since I unknowingly clicked on the next button, it could not find the next button in the end page. And so the assertion did not happen, even though the inbox was available for the assertion to be satisfied. So the code will not execute beyond the point because it is unit test cases. Unit test cases are breakdown of functional test cases by default. If unit test cases itself is broken into individual pieces, there is no sense in that. So it would not be executed beyond that. Okay. So this is all about your Cucumber with integration to Selenium or Java. You will have a feature file. You will have a runner from which you can design or define the code encryptions, or you can just define the methods, what all you need to implement. And you will have the step definition file.
Nataraj, quick question.
Yeah.
So I basically work with IntelliJ. Okay. So
Okay.
there we just have a separate a placeholder dot future file. So what we do is like we used to take this user scenarios, I mean the test cases along with the test data from the Jira. We'll copy back it here to the future file. Then if it's going to be a single test case, then we're gonna run with the test data. If it's going to be multiple test cases, we're gonna use scenario outline.
Yes.
And we'll be running it. So how basically that it is differ from this the one which you are teaching? I mean, context wise, I'm fine actually. It's going with whatever I'm like. There's a step definition, and we are defining the entire declaration and definition inside a class. That is fine. But how that differs from the one which we are looking at now with Eclipse?
So it's not that it's with Eclipse or Jira or with IntelliJ. It is that the structure of Cucumber is that way. So probably the upcoming slides are going to have details about scenario outline. So scenario outline is a part of Cucumber itself. It's not just it's a part of Eclipse or it's a part of IntelliJ. You will have in the upcoming slides about scenario outline, where it will be the further advanced concepts of Cucumber. Yeah, hello. So here you have details of scenario outline which are coming forward anyway. In the upcoming slides, you will have it. So details are going to be there about scenario outlines.
Okay, yeah, sure. So, but for IntelliJ, we'll just update in the future file. There is only default future file where we'll update and we'll run the test case, right?
Yes, the same is going to be done here. You update the feature file, you can straight away run it. But in IntelliJ, what you will have is you can right click on a certain scenario and run that scenario also. You will have feature to run that individual scenario by selecting the scenario. But here you don't have that in this plugin. So it's all about the plugin, what is designed there.
Okay, yeah. Thanks, Natash. Continue.
Welcome. So does Cucumber give us opportunity for parallel automation along with manual testing phase? Parallel automation development generally we are different kind of manual phase. Yeah, so yes, Vinit. Probably when you consider Cucumber with parallel automation along with manual testing phase, you have two different teams working on two different components, one on manual and one on parallel, or one on automation. Both teams can work parallelly on different environments. So you have two different environments and you have two different teams working for, you can do it. So it's all about the technical flow in which you organize the code. Cucumber itself doesn't have anything specific or restrictions to this activity. So it's all up to how you are going to manage your steps. Okay. So now I just introduce you to the concept of before, @before. So normally those are all termed as annotations if you use it in JUnit or TestNG. In Cucumber, it is termed as hooks. So you will have it named as hooks. After hook, before hook is what we term it as. And that is going to give you the properties of before and after. So after will execute after every scenario. In the scenario, you will not have a specific step which says run after. So by default, when you run a scenario, before the scenario and after the scenario, @before and @after will be executed by default. So if you have @before and @after to specific scenarios, only for this scenario 1 and scenario 3, you want @before to be executed. And for scenario 2, you have different set of @before. Say, for example, before and after are preconditions and post conditions. You say the precondition is you should open a browser. You have database testing falling in between your test cases. Then you need not open a browser there. You need not run the @before activity over there for the database testing functionality. So in those cases, you can restrict @before selectively by using tags. So you can say @T1. Yes, Raghav, you can put forth the question. You can say @T2, @T1. So for T1s alone, I want browsers to be initiated. Then along with my hook, I can just put in bracket @T1. So only for @T1, this functionality will run after the scenario. Similarly, before scenario, I can control. So I can control for which after should run, for which before should run using tags. So these are all hook level controls. Yes, Raghav, that is possible. You can stop the execution of the entire feature when some scenario fails by checking on the execution status of every feature in @after. So under @after, you can get access to the feature file. You can just get access to the scenarios. You can just say scenario yes. So scenario is a class that you can call from Cucumber. And you can say yes.status. Yes.getStatus will give you pass or fail status. And since it falls under @after, even if something fails also, @after is going to be triggered. As you just saw, in between it failed, even the driver is going to be closed. So @after will trigger by default if one scenario has started executing. So once the scenario starts executing, in @after you capture the scenario status. If the status is failed, you can stop the execution there by exit code 0 and all. It's all up to your automation skill. But here you can check the status of scenario in @after. That is possible. Using if else, using switch cases, you can control whether it should run or not using exit status 0, exit code 1, exit code 0, all that you can use, and you can abruptly stop your execution. Yes, you can do that. You can continue with the next feature file as well. You can just mark this feature completely as a failure. You can take control of all that in different stages. So when you get into advanced concepts of Cucumber, you can penetrate into the Cucumber class files like I penetrate into scenario file. You can penetrate into every scenario, or you can penetrate into the entire feature file. You can stop the feature, skip the feature, you can do all that. So that's up to penetrating into the files and taking control of it. So it is possible, is what I would say. Maybe the solution to do it, we can see forth in upcoming sessions, or maybe I'll write a blog on all of these taking forward. Maybe this gives me lots of time where I can expose or brand my organization. And maybe I'll write a blog on your queries, some advanced queries like this, how to stop a feature when some scenario fails in between. Maybe I can present a blog on that and share it along with you people. I can do those things moving forward. So this is about the basic feature file. You can have any number of feature files you want. It's not that you will have only one feature file. You can have any number of feature files, and every feature file can have any number of scenarios in it. And when you generally execute, all feature files are going to be executed. You create a copy of it as test2.feature and you execute it. So there will be totally 6 scenarios executed. These 3 scenarios plus the 3 scenarios in test2.feature. All 6 scenarios will be executed by default. So you can control which feature file should run, which feature file should not run, all that from an external environment termed as Cucumber options. So we'll discuss about Cucumber options shortly. But before that, we'll finish with the Gherkins file. We are yet to finish the Gherkins file part. And Cucumber options is something that is available only with Java, not with other languages. With other languages, you have other restrictions or other plugins where you can decide what is to be run, or you can run it from the command prompt level. So those all we'll discuss while working with other programming languages. With Java, we'll start integrating Cucumber options. You have various ways in which you can do that one. As you say, you can use try catch as well, or by default, if some scenario fails in between, automatically the next scenario is going to be executed in a feature. Or if you want to take control of the entire feature file, only if the feature file, if some scenario fails in between in the feature file, you need not execute the feature file. Beyond that, you need to stop it. You can take that control by taking tags and checking for the status of the tags and all that. So all those are different environments which you can work with. It's up to how we start applying the concept stage by stage. I hope it's unmuted. Can you please mute yourself? Manoj, can you please mute yourself? So I have just muted Manoj from my end. Okay. Okay. So this is about the various scenarios and activities what you do basically. If you want to take this forward, you can see that we have written I get access to Gmail web page. That is repeated in every scenario. Normally, your Cucumber gives you the advantage of not implementing the code if the statement is same. That is a great advantage what you have. The next more advantage what you have is you can have something termed as background, which would run before every scenario mandatorily. So in background, you can provide this, which means you need not even write the feature file also for that code. So this makes you even more lazier. So this is what happens with respect to background. In background, when you put something, you can be even more lazier. You need not write even this step for every feature, every scenario. Automatically, this will be called in every scenario. That is what is termed as background. When you write the same statement in every scenario, like for example, I click on next button, you write on this scenario itself. You need not write any implementation. You can be lazy there, but this makes you even more lazier, where you can just put it at the top and you need not write that English language also anywhere. That is what is with respect to background. Nothing much apart from that. And background is something which mandates for the entire feature file. You cannot specify a background individually for this, etc. It is mandated for the entire scenario executions. All scenarios will call background by default. You cannot control that. And you cannot do post conditions on background. Only preconditions can get into background. Only the initial stages can come under background. The later stages such as I click on next button or I should get access to assertions, all that cannot come under the background. The next thing is parameterization. So far we have executed a code which is completely hard coded. We write the code in steps and we execute it internally. So yes, Vishnu, the difference between before and background is before is something you say a precondition what the business team need not know. Opening the browser, business team need not know or you need not present it physically on the document. But getting access to Gmail is something which you need to present it physically on the document. So it's just all about the documentation. And one more control you get in @before is maybe in @before you can say open browser. And in this given condition, you can say driver.getgmail.com. Opening the browser and closing the browser, you can do in before and after. The background will have navigating onto URL, which you need to physically present on the document, which you need to show that you are doing. But opening the browser, you need not show that you are doing. You need not implement or you need not register that you are doing that opening browser activity, because it is something like a predefined prerequisite or something which is preset over there. That is about @before. Background is something which gets documented clearly. So both are almost the same. It's about the documentation part which gets implemented. And background you cannot restrict for certain scenarios, whereas @before you can restrict for certain scenarios using the tag control. So @before is a hidden technical terminology. Background is a visual business terminology. So now we have hard-coded the values. When I say I update the right username, I have actually hard-coded my username detail. You can also parameterize that. Maybe tomorrow business team wants to use different username. They should not get into the coding and do it. So Cucumber provides access to that in the form of parameterization. So you can just remove, when I update the username as, I will just put under double quote, which means this can be changed at any time in future. No, something in the middle of the scenario cannot be used in background version. Background is something which can be used only for the initial lines. So when you just use this, so this can be changed to anything, any username password in later point in time. That is what is termed as parameterization. You put it under double quote, automatically the method that your code executes and gives you is going to be parameterized and working with this parameter. So you now execute it. It will open the browser. Then it will throw the implementation error for this scenario because this method is not implemented. After opening the browser only, you can see that it will throw implementation error. It will not throw the implementation error straightforward. After opening your browser only, it will identify that, okay, this is not set. So let me just do the implementation. it will throw the implementation error, unimplemented methods error. As you can see there, that scenario is skipped after this first line, and the other scenarios are executing now. It's taking up the second feature file. The second feature file is going to actually update all the content and going to wait for user input. Because I haven't made any changes to the second feature file, I'll update the password alone over here, leave it as such. After 30 seconds, it's going to click on the next button, get in, verify the presence of inbox, and close the browser. So let it do that. You can see that all the executions are happening, but your first scenario alone is not running over there. In this environment, if you see, only your first scenario is not running, but all the other executions have happened. So all executions are processing stage by stage now. So this is a disadvantage over here. When you don't have something implemented or when you have some problems in between, it is going to start the execution and then only show that this is not implemented. But implementation is something which should have been checked before starting everything. Before starting your entire execution, this implementation error should have been checked, but your Cucumber will not do that. Your Cucumber will start executing the code. In between, it finds that it is not implemented. It will stop the code abruptly there. Then it will throw the implementation warning and continue with the remaining activities. This is going to lead to a failure of entire execution also, because this is a critical preliminary requirement what I had, the first scenario. So this is one disadvantage of Cucumber. But this can be overcome with setting Cucumber options. In Cucumber options, you can say, first check for the implementations. It will check for the implementation, give you a report whether it is passed or implementation is yet to be done. After that, you can remove the check for implementation command. You can change it to false and it will start executing. So that is what you will do under Cucumber options. I'll show you that. But with respect to this updated command, we have got this as an implementation. So you need not delete the older command of I update write username. You need not delete that. That can be there. Anyway, that's not going to be executed because your feature file doesn't have the statement. You can just add this step alone. You can just take that step, add it to your execution at the end. Remove pending exception and remove throwable. So here you can see this is a parameter. Open bracket, square brackets, exponent, slash, double quote, open bracket, star, close bracket. So this is a regular expression, argument. So this is a string regular expression. When you have some strings present in that position in between double quotes, so this stands for double quote. Backslash double quote stands for the double quote what you have given there in your feature file, and this stands for the parameter. So that parameter is going to be captured as string arg1 in your method. So whatever is over here will be transferred onto the arg1 memory. Now you can write a code which implements arg1 rather than hard coding it. Into the username, you can now implement argument 1 rather than hard coding it. Which means whatever you type there in the feature file is going to be reflected over here as input value. This is parameterization. Similarly, you can parameterize the password as well. You can say I update the password as. So even for wrong credential, you need not say I update a wrong username. You can say I update the username as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it becomes a single command now. Single statement. It becomes a single statement now. This is how I told once you create 50 test cases, you need not create any more step definitions beyond that. Because most of the blocks will be parameterized. You will be able to manage multiple situations there once you parameterize it. So now you need not implement this again because you have already implemented. It's going to do the same activity there. Only the post condition is different. The activity is same, post condition is different. So likewise, you will have different permutation combination coming forward in your further test cases where you write just the statements alone. It starts executing on its own after that. So I haven't done any implementation for the change what I made here now. I've just implemented only this. After changing, I ran the code, I got this warning. I just copied this, applied this to the step definition, and I've just updated it. Now I'll just execute this test feature. You can see that it would automatically put in the username and the right data as per your requirement. So it has just put in the right username. Let me close the test scenario here and stop the execution. I'll change the parameter. I'll just change it as balaji@clearcodeconsulting.com and I'll just execute that. Now you can see that this would get in there. So you get the control of the arguments externally. This is what I told us business people can manage the activity. Once you design a coding environment like this, business people will be just able to write the statement. Now you can see that it has just updated Balaji and it is executing. So once this sort of environment is developed, business people will be able to execute it straight away. This is parameterization. Similarly, you can do numeric parameterization. You add some numbers straight away. Let's say I add some numbers. I click on the next button 2. I'll add a number 2 just abruptly over here and run this. So it would just update the username, and before it can actually click on the next button, it will fail because implementation is not there. Because I click on next button 2 is not implemented yet. So I'll show you the implementation code. The parameterization for this will be /D+. That is decimal parameterization. Since string parameterization is there, we have got open brackets, square brackets, star, exponent, slash, double quote, all that. If it is numeric parameterization, you put any number in between your steps, it will identify it as a numeric parameter and it will immediately convert it into a parameter. You need not specify it under double quote and all with respect to numbers. With respect to string, only when you specify it under double quote, it will recognize it as a parameter, give you the parameter implementation. And you can have multiple parameters also. You can say this followed by, and you can just specify a new parameter. So it becomes arg1 and arg2. You will capture 2 arguments and you will have to implement that. And as you can see there, you will get /D+ for numeric parameterization. And you will get the argument as int arg1. Whereas for this, you have got the argument as string arg1 under brackets, exponent, slash, star, all that. So this is string parameterization. /D+ is numeric parameterization. Any number you put there will be acceptable. You just change this to 5. Now my arg1 will have 5 in the memory if I execute this. So it can accept any value you put. Likewise, different parameterizations can be achieved. So this is parameterization stage. Now, let's say you wanted to execute this entire scenario for both Natarajan and Balaji. You need not repeat it again and again. Normally, if you want to do that, you can do it this way. You can just repeat that, replace this with. But if you want to overcome this, to make you lazy, there are always methods available in Cucumber where you need not repeat the entire execution again. You can just term it as outline. So So you say scenario outline, which means this is not the exact scenario. This is a template for the scenario. This is how scenario should work. But the details to be filled in the template, I'll provide later on. So you'll just put it as user, where you will update the username over here. So you create templates. Normally you want to create emailer templates in your Outlook or somewhere. You will create template like this. Body to person name. You will create templates like this. So we are creating a template. That is what is termed as scenario outline. This is not the exact scenario. This is a template for the scenario. And the values that has to be applied in the template are going to be populated with the title examples. So you will create a title examples under which you will specify the title for your variable with pipeline symbol. You create a table manually. So this will be counted as two scenarios now. Applying this is one scenario, applying this is other scenario. You will get report for two scenarios on the report screen. You will not get single scenario like this. Rather, you will get report for two scenarios now if you execute this. So you put an angular bracket, give a template name or variable name there. You apply the variable name in the examples as title and you mention them. You can just update it as a template, scenario outline. And as I told you, you can pass multiple variables as well. And you can say password. You can just put the second column PASS, put a tile symbol, put a pipeline symbol there, update the password. Which means this is one scenario. This is the second scenario. These are the titles on which it should be applied for. So this is termed as scenario outline. You need not do any changes in your code. The same will execute without making any change in your code. For this, we haven't implemented code where it says user and password. We have implemented code for user. So you need not make any change. You can just execute the code as such. All that you are doing is just working on the scenario feature file. So here you execute, it will consider it as two different scenarios. So it would execute Natarajan. And after 30 seconds, it's going to click on the next button. It's going to verify the presence of inbox link and it's going to close the browser once inbox link is found. Now again, it's going to run the second scenario where it's going to apply Balaji. And it will do the same set of execution. So I'll stop the execution here. This is how your feature file is going to be defined with respect to scenario outline. You will create templates for your scenarios. So this is all about your feature file. You don't have anything apart from this. One thing that you have apart from this is stepwise parameterization. Like for example, you consider that you are working on an insurance application or you are working on some contacts, Google contacts or Gmail contacts you are working on. So let's say I wanted to update all your mail IDs to the invitation forwarders. Let's say I wanted to send across invitation to all of you. Then I need not send every one of you an individual invitation. I need not repeat the activity of logging into Gmail, getting onto inbox, or getting onto compose mail, updating your mail ID, updating the subject, updating the body, adding attachments of the invitation and sending it across to you. I need not repeat this to every candidate. If I do this like this, I'll have to repeat it for every mail ID of the candidate. But I can actually access the functionality of Gmail, which can accept multiple emails into the to box. There, individual step which says add email to the to box is only going to be parameterized with multiple data. Opening the mail account, composing the mail, clicking on the send key of the mail, closing the account is going to be one step activity. But updating the target audience, updating the to location alone is going to be multiple steps. In which case, you can just populate that type of input under a single step. So let's say you have over here, I click on the next button, I should get error message for empty input. Let's say there are 5-6 different error messages available. Then I can just put that into a table separately like this, which means only that step is parameterized, not the entire scenario. If you have examples, it means the entire scenario is parameterized, but here only the step is parameterized. But again, in this point, it is not going to run the step multiple times. It is not going to run the step 3 times because I have 3 data. What this is going to do is, like over here, you got the argument as string. At this point, you will get the argument as data table. That is all you have. Here, this will be turned out as a data table and given to you. You will have to write the code of iterating it internally. Cucumber itself will not iterate it. You will have to write the data or you will have to iterate it individually. So this step can come in between also. Here also there can be a step, which means for this step, I am passing an argument of data table. Use the data table argument and do whatever you want. It will not take care of iterations. It will just give you the data in such a way that you can create lists. So I'll show you the execution here. Maybe I'll just put it onto the very first command so that I get the implementation immediately. I say over here, sorry. In given, let's say I have this data table parameterization. I execute the code now. So immediately it's going to give me implementation issues. All given has failed. So obviously all your background are going to fail, and it's not going to be able to work with enabling the environment. I think it has updated with the error rather than the implementation step. Okay, let me do one thing. I'll just remove it from here. Maybe add it to I click on next button. Execute it. So it should update the username, then throw the implementation error. So I click on next button, it throws the implementation error. I'll close the rest of the things manually. No, Vishnu, you cannot control the iteration counts basically. When you have external example provided, you cannot control the iteration count. As many lines as you have in the example, those many times your test case will run. And regarding your question, Raghav, we can get the data from external source, but your feature file will not get it. You will have to write Java codes which can get the data from external source and use it. Your feature file doesn't have that capability in it. And according to the standards of Cucumber or according to the standards of BDD, it is believed or it is coded that you should not get data from external source, because BDD is something what you construct in order for the business team to access everything in a single environment. If you tell the business team to go to Excel, access the data, come back to feature file, write the code, it doesn't make a sense there. So BDD itself is designed to enable the business team get the data from different environment for their usages. So maybe I'll just cut down background, take this given into individual steps. Yes, only pipes can be used as separators. So as you can see there in the slides, you will have all the keywords listed. Only these are the keywords what you can use in the feature file. Nothing apart from this can be used in the feature file. So if you want to comment something, I told that these are all not going to be executed. These are just going to be copied to the document. You do not want something to be copied to the document as well, you can put it under comment line. This will not be considered at all. So these things without keywords will be copied to the document, will not be executed. But with hash will not be copied to the document also. That is the next level of commenting or updating the commands. So maybe I'll use this like @ before. So let me just make it simple. Where is it throwing error? Error passing feature file test.feature. Line 2, line 3. Test.feature. Office topic. Okay, so feature 2 is running. So maybe I'll just take that and I'll make changes there. So over here under given, let's say I have data table. I'll just give the data as D1, D2, D3. This can again be multiple lines, multiple columns, all that. So now I execute the code. It doesn't check for the implementation at all. Okay, then probably I'll have to remove the other scenarios as well so that it executes one scenario perfectly. Yeah, now it should work fine. step definition in file with pattern is declared with 0 parameters. However, the Gherkins has one argument table. So as you can see that there is a table getting in, whereas the definition what I have written is not matching with that. That is the core problem. I'll have to just comment this given for once. Once I do that commenting of the given for once, it will consider that the parameterization implementation is not done. It will execute and you can see the actual parameter what it generates. As I told you, it would generate a data table. From the data table, you can convert it back to list of list or list of map, or you can convert it to list of your own type, or you can convert it to map directly. So these are different ways in which you can work with in converting the input what you have got. It can be better converted into list of list. So you get every row as a list and all rows put together is going to be a bigger list. So list of list, where you can access individual data from the individual columns. So people working with Selenium and with multiple elements in Selenium like table data, table row, ULLI would be knowing about this concept. We would be discussing about this list of list data types in Java and all, maybe in further sessions. So this is how individual steps can be parameterized. You can capture the data as list of list. Internally within your method, you can parameterize it or you can iterate it. Your Cucumber as such will not iterate it. Your Cucumber will give all the data together as a single product. That product you can take it, you can identify how many lines are there, how many elements are there in the list, or what is the size of this list, and then you can iterate it accordingly in your for loops. So these are the features that you have in your Cucumber file. And this is how you integrate it to Selenium. So I told that we have a final stage of implementation with respect to Cucumber options, where you can control what is to run, what is not to run, all that. I'll provide you a sample of that as well. So under runner, you can just add one more command, that is @Cucumber options. This deals with various Cucumber option controls, which goes in line like this. So just a minute. So you have something termed as dry run. So these are the components what you can add to Cucumber options. You will have dry run. You can say dry run is equal to true, which means first check if everything is implemented, then execute the code. That's what I told. It will check for the implementation, then execute the code. So that is going to be under dry run is equal to true. So if you set dry run as true, when the codes are implemented, it will skip all those codes that are implemented. It will throw the code that are not implemented onto your console. All the codes that are implemented are going to be skipped. All the codes that are not implemented throws the implementation functionality to the console. This is termed as a dry run functionality. You have this specific to languages. You will not have it on all languages of Java, Ruby, Python, C#, and JavaScript. So these are all something available under Java as of now. The other languages we'll discuss both in the other. So you say dry run as true, it will just completely execute it, would not provide any. So as you can see there, it just executes the entire test case, doesn't provide any implementation error. It marks everything put together as skipped. So it will skip every step when the implementation is available. When the implementation is not available, it will just show you the implementation error or implementation warning. That is dry run. The next functionality, monochrome. You can see the output over here on this console. It is distorted and shattered. Monochrome is something which will make that output readable. So you say monochrome is equal to true, putting comma under the Cucumber option process itself, and you execute it. You can see that the output would be a bit presentable. You can clearly read through the output. 1 skipped, 6 failed, with proper bracket structures, all that. That is termed as monochrome. Then you have features. So I told that we would be constructing a framework where everything would not be put forth together. In that case, you can just mention feature is equal to where is the feature file available. You can just mention the folder name. So say for example, your step definition and runner are into separate packages. You say a separate package runner, and you copy your runner code there. You haven't updated feature, let's consider. You execute the runner now. It will throw with zero scenarios, 0 steps, because it doesn't know, it doesn't have any feature file basically. Where the runner file is available, it doesn't have any feature file. So it cannot identify anything. You will have to tell it where it is available so that it can identify. You can tell features is equal to, either you can mention the entire folder name with the relative location. You can say src test java features. You have 2-3 feature files there, everything will be executed. Or if you want to be specific about the feature file, put the specific feature files as an array under curly braces. So you can just say slash test2.feature. You have the next one, put a comma, update the next one. Source test java slash test.feature. You want to update that, you can update it. So you can selectively run feature files from this controller, where you specify features is equal to. If you want to mention the directory, you can just mention the directory straight away without representing curly braces so that it runs all the feature files. You can say source test java features. The directory where the feature files are available, you can mention it straight away. Now you execute the code, it will recognize the feature file. And it's throwing error for implementation now, as you can see there, because it doesn't know where step definition is. Step definition is not in the same location as that of your runner file. It needs everything to be in the same location. If not, you will have to give the address locations mentioned under options. For step definition, you have something termed as glue. Glue is something which will take care of the step definition. And for step definition, as I told you, you cannot do duplications. You cannot specify this step definition should run, that step definition should run, etc. You cannot control the order in which they execute, etc. For step definition, you cannot specify a single file. You will have to always specify the package name only. Only the package name where step definition is available can be specified. You don't have an option to specify single file for step definition, because every control is available under feature level itself. You can use tags to control which should run, which should not run. You can use features to control which file should run, which file should not run. So every control you have got there. Why should you get another control in glue? So glue can have only the package name where your feature file can be. Sorry, where your step definition file can be. So normally in professional standards, this would be put forth into another package termed as step definition or glue package. You can just name the package as glue. You can put your step definitions there. So this is a base framework for Cucumber. You want to add any feature files, you can add it under features. You want to add any step definition, you can get onto glue and do it. People who know page object model can implement page object into glue again. You can create one more package of page object. You can create repositories. You can just break the internal content of your step definition into page objects. That is page object on Cucumber. So you can create a separate package termed as glue. you can mention the step definitions there. You can have any number of step definition files you want. Only thing is there should not be repetition of the same method or same statement. It will throw error of duplication in that case. So now you execute, it will recognize everything. Apart from this, you have one other parameter, which is tags, under which you can specify which tag should run, which tag should not run, all that you can specify. So you can just say tags is equal to, just check into the file, we have tags T1 over here. Let me repeat this scenario, have a separate tag T2 under that. And you can also tag the entire feature file. You can say @F1. Yes, glue can be com.org. You can create sub packages. In that case, you will have to just mention the package name and not the location. You should mention it as com.glue, not com/glue. You will have to always mention the package name over here. So we can tag the feature.
Nataraj,
Yes.
Nataraj, can we mention 2 tags for same scenario?
Yes, you can. So you can just say over here @tag as one more tag, @T1 as one tag, and this belongs to T2. The entire feature belongs to @F1, which means this has T1 tag F1. This has T2 and F1. So now you say anything which has tags as @T1 run it. It will run only the first scenario. Only one scenario will be executed. One scenario and 6 steps. If I say run anything with tag 2, it will run only second scenario. And you can see the execution output to decide on which scenario has executed. You can see that over here. It would just update that and it would run only one scenario. If you want to run anything which has F1, it would run both the scenarios. You can also do AND or logical combinations here. So you can see 2 scenarios have been executed. Let's say I want to run anything which has T1 or anything which has T2. So anything which has T1 or T2, if I want to execute, I can say @T1 comma @T2. So you just put an internal comma, it is or either T1 or T2, whatever is there, execute it. So you can execute both T1 and T2 would be executed. You have 2 scenarios. When you just put it as individual components like this, T1 comma T2 as 2 different components, it will execute only the scenarios which has both T1 and T2. So no scenarios will have both T1 and T2 in our case. So it will execute 0 scenario. And an or can be achieved this way. So this is AND statement. When you put it internally as a comma, it is or statement. Either T1 or T2, run it. You can avoid tags like run anything which doesn't have T1 in it. You can just put the tile symbol and you can mention anything which doesn't have T1, run that tag. So it will run everything apart from T1. Since I had T2 over here, it has executed 1. So I'll say run anything which doesn't have F1. Then none of it would be executed because everything belongs to F1 tag. So these are different ways in which you can use AND, or, and not. So this is all about the feature files, what we have. I would be sharing the different scenarios over here. I would be sharing the PPTs with you. And finally, you have the reports, what you can generate. So you have comma. You can just say format is equal to, you can just mention the report type. So normally if you want HTML report, you need to mention a folder which would be executing and creating a folder structure of jQuery, CSS, HTML files, everything put together. Whereas when you consider JSON report or JUnit report, it is a single report that gets generated. You can mention the file name straight away. So for format, when you say HTML, you'll have to mention the folder. So you can just put it under double quote, HTML colon. You can just mention the folder name. So you can say reports. And if you want to use JSON jQuery reports, you can just mention the direct file name, including the folder structure. So if you want a JSON report to be created, you can just say JSON reports slash test.json or result.json. So all the data is going to be accumulated into this memory. Let me just execute this now. And you can see through your project, a report would be generated. So no scenario has been executed. Let me just tell except T1, execute it. You have one scenario executed. Get onto your project, refresh your project. You can see reports has been updated there. You have got reports folder with JSON report and with HTML and supportive HTML reports like jQuery, CSS, all that. So you can just inspect that, open with system editor. It will give you the HTML report, which would just provide the tags, what all steps have been executed. Skipped would be marked as blue, fail would be marked as red, pass would be marked as green. You would get the reporting structure like this. So to this report, you can also embed screenshots and all, which you have the code given over here. That is under your report. If you want to embed screenshot, you can use this embed screenshot code and you can embed your screenshot. So you have certain methods given over here, which you can make use of, and you can implement the reports to advanced levels of your requirement. You can just update the message, or you can just capture the detail and print it onto the report. You can update log details into the report. All that are possible with respect to your Cucumber. The PPT which I would be sharing with you will have all those details in it. So this is all about your Cucumber. And apart from this, you have something termed as a pretty report. So you say pretty, it would print the feature file, or it would print the scenario what gets executed in your execution onto the console. That is termed as pretty report. So you execute it with pretty report. Onto the console, you will get the scenario copied with a mapping to what all methods are going to be executed from that particular step. For this step, from where is it going to be called? That is termed as pretty report. If you want this mapping, you can generate a pretty report. In order to check if everything is properly mapped, or if you want to remap it to some other method and you want to check if it is properly mapped, you can use pretty report in that case. So these are all different report formats. So using all this, you can control your entire execution of Cucumber. So this is all about the planned session for the day. You need anything else additional, or you want any other sessions to be covered, you can just drop us a query. And this is our contact details and official mail IDs and our sites. So you can just get on to clearcodeconsulting.com, CLEARCODECONSULTING.com. You have everything available there. So when you just scroll down, you will have our contact details at the end of the page. And on contact us as well, you will have our contact details and mail IDs. So any queries, any doubts you have, anytime you can contact us, either me or Balaji. Both these numbers are on WhatsApp, LinkedIn, Facebook, all of these environments. You can just connect with us in those platforms as well. So as a part of this particular session, and as a contribution of this particular session from your end, I kindly request you to drop a review onto this review tab. You can just get on to clearcodeconsulting.com, hit on the review tab. You will be navigated onto the Google reviews, where you can drop a review straight away over there. So that is all I just request from your end for this particular session what we provided. And in case you want a complete Selenium session in a proper structured format, you can contact us anytime. So these sessions we would be covering anyway, we would be covering Selenium topics as well, but it would not be much structured. It would be according to the trend of the industry, what is happening in the industry that at that point in time, almost like bloggers or almost like YouTube channels, we are going to work on this. But if you want a proper structured Selenium course to be done, or if you want a structured course on any of the Selenium languages or any specific course on our expertise. That is, you'll have list of courses available over here where we provide services into. So if you want any courses on these structured contents, we are always available to help you out with a structured session based classes where it will happen every day. We do one-to-one sessions with few of our friends as trainers, and we do batch sessions where me and Balaji would be training the candidates. So you can contact us anytime you want structured course, but unstructured happenings in the industry will always be happening on every weekend like this. So we are planning to move forward with this structure. We would be posting forward with the registration links for the next week. Most probably we are planning to have a C# migration from Java, maybe a 1.5 hour to 2 hour session explaining you on what is the difference between Java and C#, how can you migrate from Java to C#, or how can you apply your resumes. We also have a common platform on WhatsApp where we share the opportunities as what we get. We don't mediate the opportunities. We just share it with the candidates. So I have again shared the request on those platforms, I believe. So from those platforms, I have my own platform again, Clear Code Opportunities, where I integrate all these opportunities put together along with the references that I get on LinkedIn as well. So on LinkedIn, I come across few requirements. I would post that to my own environment on clearcodeconsulting.com, on Clear Code Consulting opportunities in a WhatsApp group. So you can also put forth your number by mail, or you can drop us a WhatsApp message for your number to be added there. We keep posting various QA related opportunities and Selenium related opportunities there, based out of Mumbai, Pune, Bangalore, all these locations. We also provide job support requirements for US based candidates. So these are all the domains in which Clear Code operates. So anywhere your friend needs support into any IT product, you can always refer to us. If we have a genuine person who can work on, we have very limited person. We don't take up every project that comes up to us. We have very limited people working with us, a couple of friends working with us. So only if it is under the domain of 4 or 5 of us, I accept it or we accept it. Else, we will just straightforward refer you to other organizations, or we will get you the reference from the industry. We operate only in the domain which we can. So we don't have trainers who work under us. We are the direct trainers. So that is how we are working with this Clear Code as a product. And we are trying to promote it as a brand now. So thanks for joining the session. I'll try to get the recording converted and uploaded to Drive link. I think it would be heavy for directly posting it on our site. I'll try to do my best and I'll share it across with you people who have requested for the recording through mails. Or if in case you don't get the recording at any point in time, even after you have dropped the request now in the chat, might be because we would have missed your request on the chat, or might be because we would have missed your mail ID on the chat. You can always ping us on WhatsApp, or you can always drop us a mail. We'll be replying on that with the recorded link. So anytime any issues you have, we are there to connect for short duration of 5 minutes, 10 minutes, fix your issues on the work environment as well through Skype or something. So thanks for joining the session. The session is done here. We'll keep you posted with the upcoming sessions by mail, by WhatsApp, by the groups where you got this particular request. We'll forward or we'll streamline through the same channel again. So I would be there for another 10 to 15 minutes fixing out to your questions and issues, and please drop a review as requested. That is all I ask from you as a part of this training, what you have taken so far. Thank you. Pranshu, you have both of our WhatsApp number flashed on the screen now. Maybe you can get it as well onto clearcodeconsulting.com website anytime you want to get in.